Welcome to Road to Redline, the #1 Porsche and Car podcast celebrating the people and the stories behind the world's finest sports cars. Road to Redline is presented by YouTuber and magazine editor Lee Sibley, serial owner and columnist Joe Williams, and 993 owner Andy Brookes. Three enthusiasts on a mission to open doors and bring you the best stories, secrets, and exclusives from the world of Porsche. Tonight on Road to Redline, we've got one of our Patreon members, Nick, joining us for a four-way panel evening of chat about your 10K purchase. So this is your super risky, your mid-range, and your safe bet 10K Sunday driver. So that's definitely going to spark a bit of interest. Following on from that, we're having a touch on some 4x4 choices, which is not something you normally hear on Road to Redline. And just to finish up, we're obviously delving into the story of Nick and Petrolicious, amongst other things. So here we go.
Thank you for joining us, Nick. You are our Patreon, or one of our Patreon members, a very generous one at that. So we thought, well, look, it'd be great to get you on and provide you with a stage to kind of give your 10 pence on all the crap that we usually talk on a week-by-week basis.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's a mixed bag, isn't it? You guys go right across the whole lot. So thank you very much. I'm honored you've invited me on here, and I've got quite a diverse history, which we can talk about, and relatively new on the Porsche scene. So that'll be good to kind of test my little bit of knowledge I've got.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, your story is very interesting anyway, which we're going to come on to shortly. But also your kind of automotive journey, if you like, has given rise to the topics that we want to kind of cover today. Which we'll get onto shortly. But I think first of all, it'd be good to say it's been a fairly recent acquisition, isn't it? Really in the space of 2 years, I'm on my third Porsche, actually. Would you believe? So, I'm a bit of a prolific car changer or car collector to a degree. So, fussy, they call it, fussy.
Possibly. So I started the journey in Porsche world with a Boxster 987, actually, manual black edition. Really very, very nice car. And manual was the way to go, I was told, etc. And almost the day after we bought it, I was on a rally all the way down to Tuscany and back. So, I had a fabulous time in it, to be honest.
Cracking. On
the mountains. So, and it is a cracking car.
Yeah, so if that's, Nick, if that's a black edition, that will be a Gen 2, will it not? 987 Gen 2?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes,
okay, yeah.
Right.
Good spec to them, really good spec.
Yeah, and a great engine, a 3.4, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
Tremendous. But a little bit small for my kind of use, as it were. Lovely car as it was. And to be honest, a bit lazy in London, wanted an automatic. So then got talked into a 997 Gen 2 Carrera S or 2S or whatever I think you call it, 2CS, I think. Yeah. Cabriolet. Caught my eye. Really, really nice car, nice condition. PDK, one of the first. I think PDK came in on second generation, didn't
that's
it?
Right,
I think Gen 2. Yeah, that's right. So having done my sort of homework at the time, that apparently was a sweet spot, not a Gen 1, for all the reasons we know. I really enjoyed that car, although it spent more time in the garage, sadly, because I had a lot of problems with the roof mechanism. Under warranty and all that, but they just could not deal with it. And then lockdown came, so I lost the car for 3 months because they couldn't get it out of the dealership. Eventually got it back, but you know what? I'd gone off the car itself. As much as I enjoyed the car to drive, it mechanically was brilliant. Lovely, lovely car. Then I happened to walk past my local Porsche dealer in Mill Hill, been there a long time, and spotted this, what I'd say looked like. It was a 996 Carrera 4S, black with a tan interior and black tack art wheels. It just looked $1 million. Certainly the rear end, as you know, on the 4S is just tremendous. So walked in the showroom, know the guy. Within 10 minutes, I effectively bought it. So in my head, I was going backwards, but I wasn't, if you see what I mean. I thought I just loved the car. Took it for a quick spin. And actually, I'm now a big 996 convert, quite frankly. Not just saying this because Lee's company, but it's
Mr. 996
it is totally. But it's just got that more visceral feel, and as we develop my story today, I hope you learn, I'm more into those slightly older cars, shall we say, sort of 90s, early 2000 feel. I've been through the very latest cars, and they just kind of bore me, quite frankly. They just do everything so well.
You said Nick that it was going backwards to get a 996, but I would argue that backwards is going forwards in automotive circles at the moment.
You caught me there. I should have said backwards with a small b. To be honest with you. I was just thinking what people might say. I certainly saved a lot of money, as it were. I saved 10-15 grand on the part exchange value I got on my 997. So no, I would agree with you. Now it is not backwards, quite frankly. And having driven the latest, 991 latest generations, good as they are, lovely as they are, I just find them, even Porsche sense, dare I say, boring within that context. I think you know what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Just so there you are. So effectively 3 Porsches in quick succession. I also have other cars. I'm also a big fan of BMW. Always have been, actually. And again, to talk back to my desire to have something slightly older, I've always had for the last 15 years an X5 because I need a bigger vehicle for other use. The original version X5, the 4.8 IS V8 engine. What a beautifully made car.
Pretty classic now, aren't they?
Oh,
absolutely.
I've
got a friend over in the US, and he, when he first moved over there, they were the brand new, they were the thing. And I think he owned it for about 10 years. And I think maybe over 600,000 miles he put on it because he lived out in the middle of nowhere.
Wow.
And I think they got another one and might even still have one today, but just a classic looking machine now.
Yeah, I'm on my fourth or fifth one, actually. So, I just find the next sort of slightly lower mileage one when I'm tired of that current one. And just keep going. In fact, as a company car, when they first came out, I had a 3-liter petrol, would you believe, in Estoril blue at the time.
Lovely.
And it was a bee's knees. And even now, and in between, I've been into a new Range Rover Sport for 3 months. Just did not enjoy it. As much as nice as it is, it just hasn't got that feel. So. But really looking forward to developing my Porsche journey in earnest, by the way. So having been a Porsche fan for many years, of course, never really dived into it till recently. And I'm looking to sort of fast track and make up for the lost years, on Porsche. And genuinely, you guys have helped me on that journey no end. I just love the way your guys' knowledge is just incredible. So
I think if you keep winding the clock back with your Porsche purchases, I think it'll get more interesting as you go. I think that's probably that'd be my experience anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure. I have later on. Hopefully, I've got a question for you guys, so I'll pose that to you later. It'll help me out indirectly. So there you go.
Look forward to it.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds good. One of the topics that we kind of want to come on today's panelist type episode, if you like, is brands that are perhaps closer to our heart away from Porsche, because although this is a Porsche centric podcast, other brands are totally acceptable. We're a very welcoming trio, and that ties in nicely with your automotive story, particularly with regards to Alfa Romeo, which is a real petrol heads brand, isn't it?
Oh, undoubtedly. I think, Lee, when you and I were last speaking, you hit it on the head. If you are a true petrol head, you should have had an Alfa Romeo somewhere in your past, if not currently. Yeah, you need to have experienced an Alfa Romeo, with all its build quality problems as well. But mechanically, when they click, if you like, they are something else. Yeah, and of course we know the long history of Alfa Romeo. Ferrari came out of Alfa Romeo, as we know. So in their heyday, they were so advanced in terms of their engineering prowess and obviously their racing heritage. So yeah, absolutely. I happen to be an Alfa fan have been for a long time, partially because one of my first jobs in the car industry, which a long time ago, was working on the Alfa brand in the UK. In the end, I was UK sales director for Alfa Romeo GB. So got into Alfa Romeo, obviously, in that sense. Lots of trips to Italy and the factories, and got some of the stories I could regale sometime. When we meet for a beer, it would be fantastic.
They're not for public broadcast then.
Well, I mean, a couple of them are, but they just need a bit of background. I don't know whether you're up for it. Certainly, I know if I do regale the story now, the listeners who know Alfa Romeo of old will go, "Yep, that makes sense." It was Lee. You decide if you got extra 2 or 3 minutes. I'm very happy to regale. Otherwise,
definitely.
Yeah,
always got time on this podcast.
Yeah. Okay. So part of my job, one of my various jobs in Alfa Romeo, was being an area sales manager and area after sales manager for the Southeast, as our territories were sort of divided. I got a call one day from a dealer near Colchester saying, "I've got a problem, Alfa Sud," from a customer who's been complaining of a knock from the back that happens under certain conditions, doesn't always happen. Could happen at any speed on corners. It was like quite an erratic thing. So the dealer had it in week after week, in and out, just could not deal with it. The customer was getting frustrated, hence the call to me as the area rep, if you like. Not that I'm highly technical or was highly technical, but that was my job, to be the front man, as it was. So I go down there, test drive the car, lo and behold, first 5-10 minutes, nothing happened, and then little knock, and then goes away. You try and replicate the same speed, it doesn't happen, and then happens again. So it was a real, headache. In the end, we took the car back to HQ, got our HQ mechanics on it. They could replicate it, but could not find, what it was. In the end, one of the guys got in the boot whilst he was being driven, so he could, with a stethoscope inside the boot, because that's you could tell roughly where it was coming from. To identify where it's coming from. And they decided it was coming from something inside the panels, if you like, nothing mechanical. So they cut out the rear section of the car and found a half a bottle of red wine in this panel. Okay. So it was obviously during construction or during production. And very famous. I've been to the factory line in the south where they all stop at lunchtime. There's no particular time. Could be for half an hour, could be for an hour, and they all sit beside their cars that they're manufacturing, open their lunch boxes and bottles of wine and what have you, and away you go. So this bottle of wine must have been there, God knows already by then, 4 or 5 years, 6 years. So it's that just sums up the whole sort of attitude to manufacturing Alfa Romeos.
Was it a good bottle of plonk? That's the question.
Well, I don't think anyone of us wanted to drink it, to be honest. It had gone, but I'm sure it was okay. So
it's probably well travelled by that time, I'd imagine.
Absolutely well travelled, but just shows you, doesn't it? And that sort of sums up the whole sort of problem at the time, the production problem, if you like.
Amazing.
So Alfa Romeo clearly is a brand. It's a tremendous brand. In fact, I'm happy to see it's sort of coming back. We've got some tremendous product now, having been out in the doldrums for so many years. I've personally got an Alfa Spider in restoration at the moment, one I want to bring back. So hopefully that'll be on the road. Yeah.
That Alfa Spider, would I be right in saying something strange is happening to that as far as the drivetrain's concerned?
Something strange will happen to it, I suppose, if strange is the right word in today's climate. So, so at the moment it's going to remain, with its original engine. It's been rebuilt mechanically, all the rest of it, full, body off restoration. But the plan with it at some point, future-proofing it, is to put an electric drivetrain.
Oh, I thought so. I thought I'd seen a few pictures on Instagram.
Yeah, electric classic. That particular one isn't my car, actually. I went to see it. I went to look into it, and they were doing an Alfa Spider to give me the inspiration and look at it. But I'm not quite ready to jump onto it yet. But, No, but some of the ways of preserving these classic cars in the future, if the regulations become draconian, will be to rather than scrap them because they got petrol engines or whatever, let's go this way. And I've been watching this for the last 2.5 years, and that sort of what was a cottage industry has now become quite professional, and there are a number of suppliers in that marketplace who a lot of them using Tesla bits. Which are well proven already, if you like. Absolutely. And then the cost is coming down as well. So yes, that.
So Nick, are you doing that because you want to do it, or because you feel that you are going to have to do it?
It's more probably because have to do it. There is a little element of because I want to do it. Personally, my wife's run hybrid cars for a long time. She's now runs her own fully electric car for the last 2 years or so. So we kind of are used to how they work in a daily sense. It's just trying to have one eye on the future. Look, if I had a free choice, and if I didn't have to do it when the regulations weren't coming in, then I probably wouldn't jump into it, to be honest with you. Because one of the downsides to electric is range, isn't it? The range anxiety, we know all about that. In fact, that's moved on for the moment to charger anxiety, isn't it? It's like finding the right chargers now, isn't it, around the country? So I'm sure all of that will settle down eventually. So if you want to take, as I'm sure we all want to go on rallies and tours to the continent, you can't really do it that easily in an electric car. It's just the freedom goes, isn't it?
It's an interesting
certainly
thing.
Governed by the route, aren't you?
It's quite interesting, I think, about the electric sort of conversions. There's a lot of classic cars out there that have got absolute shit engines. They're just that's not what makes the car good. It's the style of the car. If you think of like a Citroen DS, you wouldn't think of that engine as being particularly amazing engine. So electrifying that car works for me because it makes it a better car overall. And I think there's lots of candidates.
That's a good point, actually. There is, as long as because the torque, of course, increases quite a lot depending on what battery, what motors you go for. So you can find yourself, though, you need to upgrade the suspension and the brakes and everything else to go with it because it's not just simple as that. But I think your overall point is a very valid one. So there you go. Suddenly there may be life for these older cars that didn't have very good engines to have another lease of life. So why not?
It's I think it is an inevitability for certain sectors. Hopefully within Porsche circles that will be put off for as long as possible. As we've discussed previously on the pod, Porsche as a company is investing quite heavily in synthetic fuels, which will start with the race cars, filter down to the GTs, and hopefully will at least kind of keep alive what will become the classics in terms of the internal combustion engine motors. So, well, look, Alfa Romeo, that's pretty dear to your heart, Nick. Andy and Joe, are there any brands away from Stuttgart's prancing horse that tickles your fancies or pulls at your heartstrings?
I think forever for me, I mean, the old classic Volkswagen stuff's always been there, and I think that's I know it's loosely connected, isn't it? Well, fairly well connected to the Porsche story, but you can't beat an old classic Beetle or that sort of stuff. I think is still there for me anyway.
Have you got one or had one in the past? Or
I've gone through hordes of different classic Volkswagens. I've still got a sort of custom V8 Bug that's seemed to be back, which is a very different sort of thing. Which again, it's just a fun car really. It's not something you want to drive miles in, but I just think they're good fun.
That beach buggy, Joe, will go nicely with that shirt you're wearing, mate. Summer vibes.
Absolutely. Just visions of Steve McQueen on the beach.
Yeah, too right.
I've got a couple of weird ones. It's Saab and Citroen. Really like an old Saab 900. Never had one, but always sort of wanted one. Had an old 9000, and then Citroen DSs really sort of float my boat, but a shit engine. Just weird stuff.
The Saab 99, the Saab turbos were brilliant, weren't they? At the time?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lovely shape too, actually.
You've owned pretty much every car that's ever been made. So surely there must be an Alfa
No, there's
in your
not.
car history somewhere.
No.
Really?
Alfa
That
boat,
really
yeah.
surprises me.
Yeah, I've been close a couple of times.
Okay. Yeah. What do you think of Alfa? Yeah.
I remember looking at a 156 many years ago, because I drove one of those as a hire car, which I really enjoyed. But then it was getting on a bit, and it was just shocking. It felt like a piece of wood. I think if all the suspension was worn out, and it was just like, oh no, just walk away from this. But yeah, an older one, I would like to have a dabble for sure.
Yeah. Nice.
Any model in mind? An older one?
GTV.
Nice. Yeah. With a V6.
Yeah.
Classic Busso engine. Yeah. Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Joe? Any Alfas in the historical archive?
I don't think it really counts, but the I bought our au pair a Mito, which is still actually going strong
Really?
to this
Yeah.
day. And my mother-in-law basically stole it, and so basically every year now I get a phone call saying the car needs an MOT and a service. Can you come pick it up, please? And it's become my problem still, because apparently it's still my car, but she has full-time use of it. So yeah, I get to do all the horrible jobs with it. But anyway, it's still going strong, and actually, yeah, cracking little car. I bought that a few years ago, and it just goes on forever, and it's like a golf size thing, isn't it? So it just works.
Is, yeah.
I think that's quite a good looking car, to be honest with you.
It is, and it's pretty successful in its own right, and sort of relatively well built, and as you say, mechanically pretty sound.
And I think, finish wise, it's a good bit of kit, and yeah, like I said, going strong, and they're quite a little bit timeless, I think, because you don't see lots of them. They don't look that dated. The one we've got, it's a 2010 car, so yeah, it's over 10 years old, but I don't know when they stopped making Mitos, but it wasn't that long ago, so they still look quite current.
Yeah, and the facelifts didn't change them dramatically each time, so that helps. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
So I don't know if that counts as Alfa ownership, but that's my only experience.
Well, it's a start, isn't it? Yeah. I'm sure we'll change that over time.
It's Alfa ownership by proxy, I think. So yeah, particularly if you're in charge of getting it through an MOT each year. So definitely,
it's your name on the logbook, so it must be yours. Probably.
That's quality. I'm just trying to think. I definitely, I've not owned an Alfa myself, but when I had this is probably better for last week's episode, but when I had my little Volkswagen Polo, my first car, I put a set of Alfa Romeo leather seats, just the front seats into my car. Obviously I had to make adapters for the frames to fit them in, but I loved them, so comfortable. And then my editor at Fast Car, I mean, he went through cars every other week. I mean, I've never known somebody of such a high turnover of vehicles, but he used to do crazy stuff like accidentally driving through fresh concrete and things like that. So,
oh wow,
he's not known for kind of looking after cars to any meticulous degree. But yeah, he said exactly the same. It's an Alfa is a petrol heads car. You need a good open road because if you're not on a good open road, your chances are you're on the back of an AA truck. So.
Yeah,
what was the Alfa that we both had a drive in or drive off? The latest 4x4. It was like a V8 twin turbo, something. I
can't remember. It sounded great, didn't it?
So it sounded insane.
Stelvio,
drove
Stelvio. You mean the SUV?
SUV. Yeah, the SUV.
Yeah.
But it was the one with the crazy silly engine, and this thing it sounded awesome, and it really drove well, didn't it? It was like we were both like, if you're going to have one, that's the one.
Yeah. That's the Quadrifoglio. Yeah, absolutely.
That's
tremendous. Yeah, I mean that's leading the charge for Alfa back on the map, if you like, that vehicle. They've got it right. Yeah, it doesn't feel like an SUV when you actually drive it. So good memories there already.
It was awesome. Right, shall we get on to Sunday drivers and Andy's threefold question?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so shall I read out what my sort of question is so that people understand it? So it was name your top 3 10k budget Sunday cars. So you got a 10k pot, and they come under three different categories. You've got really risky, so you can buy it for 10k, but if anything goes wrong, you know that it's going to be at least a 10k price to fix it, because it's just a complicated mess. So it's basically junkyard material. So if you're lucky, great, you've got a 10k car that lasts you. If you're not, you could be a week in and it's blown up in your face. Then you've got semi-risky, so you can buy it for 10k again. But there's always a 5k repair bill that's likely and casting doubt in your mind. And then lastly, there's the safe 10k car. So you're buying it with minimal risk, because if it does break, it's just going to be something very small that's just normal sort of service item, or they're 10 a penny and you can buy a new engine for a few £100. So that sort of outlines what the difference is between the three categories. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. How do you want to play this? Do the first one first, all round the table?
Start with risky stuff.
Yeah. I think we should hear. Bear in mind, this is Andy's drift.
Yeah,
I think we should hear what kind of crazy car you've come up with.
I've been really debating this today. I went onto Auto Trader and just put 10k in. Basically, put big engine because I thought that's going to cost money. And what really popped out to me was an old 8 Series BMW. So the wedgy one with the pop-up headlamps. I don't know my series numbers that well.
Yeah,
lovely.
Quality.
Love them.
What series is that, Nick? You must know. E90, E91, I don't know, something like that. I may be wrong. But the wedge
wasn't the big engine one of those? Wasn't the bottom end like part of the F1 engine?
Yeah, well, it depends. There were also V12 versions.
That's what I was going to say. The V12.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I think the one I saw was a V8, so probably slightly less risk.
Put right when it goes wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a risky one, isn't it? So I think I'll stick with that. It's a bit old school, sticking in the 90s. But yeah, big old weapon.
What engine's in them, Andy? And what's the power and stuff? Because I've
got no
great,
idea.
I don't really know too much else about those cars.
All I know, the one I was looking at was a 4-litre V8, but I don't know any more than that.
Yeah, the 4-litre V8, and then I think there was a limited edition of V12s as well. But I'd be surprised if you can buy those for 10 grand. Actually.
Yeah.
So it's probably the V8 you were looking at,
Yeah, it was.
Which is actually similar to the V8 I've got in my old X5. They're all kind of similar.
Right.
Probably bulletproof, absolutely bulletproof.
Oh, well, maybe it's not so risky then.
So, well, no, maybe the suspension and other things might be risky. There's so much else to go wrong in them. If they've got the air suspension, then that could be relatively expensive.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stick with that then. I'll stick with the old 840 BMW. Dodgy pop-up headlamps that cost a fortune to fix.
Quite like the look of those. I think they're.
I do.
They're lovely.
Yeah,
they're
absolutely.
cool, aren't they? I would argue they're too cool for Andy.
Definitely.
Hey, what the? Trying to get me back, aren't you?
Dear.
Cheeky. So what?
Only the irony there. You nearly spat out your herbal tea. So.
Right, who's next then? On the real risky.
Yeah. I think our guest, Nick, I think you should dive in.
Yeah.
Well, you stole my thunder a little bit. I was searching my head for a V12 actually, but I don't think you can buy them these days for 10 grand. There was a while ago where you could buy a Mercedes SL 129 series, I think, if I'm not mistaken, for around that sort of money.
They've gone right up again, haven't they?
They have gone right up again, but let's assume you can buy one for 10 grand. Then, they're fantastic. But if they go wrong, then you've got some big cost coming.
Yeah.
I'm sort of big V12 fan anyway, but I'll go with that.
Yeah, all about the big engines.
Yeah, that's where it's at,
definitely.
Isn't it?
My super risky choice is actually going off of Andy's vibes. I went for the E63 M6. That is the V10. That is the one with the F1 Motorsport lineage. It's the big old boy. It looks like a shark that's chewed on a wasp and isn't happy about it.
Ugliest sin.
And
Didn't
to be honest,
your brother had one?
My brother had one. Yeah, and that was that. It was that was the comical car that was I think he owned it for 2.5 years and it was for sale for 1.5 of those 2.5 years, and he took a bath on it. But I have to say, and they are risky business, obviously, with the engine, but also the SMG pump I think is quite notorious on them. But 500 horsepower, naturally aspirated. That's just a complete kind of antithesis of anything anybody else is making today, isn't it? And providing it works, they're a phenomenal car. I was so kind of blown away by just how capable that was. And for 10 grand, that's a lot of car for the money.
That is, absolutely. Wow.
Yeah. So just to go back to your V12 option, this isn't my choice. I just very quickly did an eBay search for the cheapest V12 I could find.
Okay.
Yeah. 5.5 grand will buy you a Mercedes S600 with a V12 in it.
There you go. Yeah.
Impulse buy, hovering above the button there, Joe?
No, we're staying well away from that.
All right. Well, you're quids in already. If you spend 5 grand, you've still got another 5 left to spend.
Okay.
If it goes wrong. So
Good man maths.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
I think I went a bit more extreme on my my risky one. So I reckon, well, I'd be going Bentley, because you can get yourself into an old school Bentley for 10 grand. Yeah,
can
pretty
you
easily.
really?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think literally, if anything, including like a door handle falls off it, it probably costs you 10 grand to fix it. But yeah, I think a Bentley would be great fun for 10k.
I'd
or even a Rolls Royce, I guess, or some of those older ones.
Yeah,
that sort of money.
You might well get into an old roller for that.
Definitely. I'd just like to put a bit of a public service broadcast out there. So if Joe's au pair's listening and isn't quite fancying the charms of the Mito anymore, get on eBay and have a little browse, I'd say.
Brilliant.
Nice little Bentley. That'd be ideal, wouldn't it?
So Andy, give us the Patreon list for today.
So yeah, we've got a few guys that have come back to us with their list of cars. Ian Harris, he sent me a voice message, so we'll play that. But I'm pretty sure it was a Bentley R, Turbo R, that he said for real risky. So in the same sort of vein as we were talking before. John Wallace also said a Rolls Royce or some other sort of luxury barge with lots of creature comforts that could go wrong. And we had a couple of people talking about BMW M5s with the V10. Doug and Rob Greasley both suggested those. So again, it's that big dollar engine, isn't it? If that blows, that's your car gone. Then I know there was another couple. I think these are both from the US. Tyler, who suggested a C3 Corvette, T-top coupe. Sounds very American to me. And Brian Duffy was a Fox body Mustang GT, which I think are actually fairly inexpensive, but he wants to dump a load of money in the engine.
Right. Okay. I think that's quite interesting with the M5s coming up in there, because I mean it's the same vein as the M6 with the V10 and whatnot.
Yeah.
But I mean it's a 5-door. It's a real box shaped design, and they are a fully fledged 2-ton car. I know the M6 is getting on for that way, so it's quite interesting people have gone for that. I think is the M6 the better car for kind of sporting intentions, or
I don't know. I'd probably go M5 would be my sportier. I think M6 is more like a barge to me.
Do you think?
Yeah,
I'd agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, floaty old barge compared to the M5.
The M5s were finely tuned at the factory, weren't they? Not by the M division. They were really finely tuned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
I'll stand corrected. I'll get back in my box.
When it comes to BMW, I just keep quiet. I have no idea.
Right then, should we go on to mid-risk?
Yeah, mid-risk, yeah.
So
what you got, Andy?
This is your 10k car, but you've got a 5k bill that might hit you at some point. Mine, I went very safe, I guess. Cayman, 987 Cayman.
Can you get
a
one?
$5 grand bill for a Cayman? That's
wouldn't you? What, IMS and cylinder?
You'd have to be very unlucky, I think. Very lucky.
Possible scoreboard. Yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
always that.
Yeah. I think you might get away with it. I think. Would you find one for less than 10 grand? That's the question.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
There's loads on Auto Trader.
Get you a Cayman.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
10 grand would actually get you into quite a tidy Cayman these days, believe it or not.
But those would be the early
really
ones,
good.
wouldn't they? Which were the troublesome ones. So there's that fake. That's that 5K.
Yeah. I'd love to, considering the troubles you had getting into Joe's Cayman race car, I'd love to see you get into the street car.
Be easy, wouldn't it?
Wouldn't need quite so much folding, to get in. Yeah, it wouldn't be an expletive laden entry into the car, unlike the race car with the fixed buckets.
I think Andy also struggled to get out because didn't you end up like looking out your hip or something? It was
my hips did look out.
Swearing a lot and being stuck in there.
I'm just trying to imagine that speed.
Right, who's next then? Who else is on the mid?
Shall I go? I would have said Boxster, but you took my thunder. So I'm going to actually be remiss of me not to mention an Alfa Romeo now.
Excellent.
One of the cars really took my eye a while ago was an Alfa Romeo Brera. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful shape. Very, very nice looking.
Just shame it's not rear-wheel drive.
Yeah, that is true. But it does come with a V6 engine nonetheless. And it's a mid-risk only because the ones that are still around nowadays have been sorted, if you like, that have survived. So hopefully you wouldn't be hit with a much bigger than another $5,000 bill. Funnily enough, their bodies were very well made as it happened. So, they didn't have the traditional rust problems. But they're a beautiful looking car. Nice proportion.
I just looked up a picture. They got a really nice rear end on those, haven't they?
They have, exactly.
You're not still working for Alfa Romeo, are you, Nick, by the sounds of it here? So.
Well, I may do after this Friday. But no, certainly not as we speak.
That's good. I think that's a decent choice. Decent choice, has to be said. Yeah. Thank you. Joe, what are you saying?
Yeah, well, I think I went slightly more on the side of risky than not, but still hopefully doable. But yeah, I would. It's actually a car I owned for a short period of time some years ago, and that was the Maserati 3200, which does come as a twin turbo V8 type thing. But you can easily pick one up now for 10k, and I reckon because there's enough of them around and there's enough bits knocking around, you better get them fixed for $5,000. So that's where I'm coming from.
Nice choice.
Yeah, I think that's quite valid. Probably pick up an engine fairly cheap because there are a few snotters about. Yeah,
and I think that's a serious looking car for the money. I mean, it doesn't look like a $10,000 car, does it?
Yeah.
No. Would that engine have some Ferrari kind of DNA in it, I think?
Yeah, that is
Ferrari based. So that's
that is a Ferrari based engine. That is.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Awesome. Not sure $5,000 would fix a Ferrari engine, but that's another point.
True.
Especially anyway. not the one Joe owned with its gumball credentials or history.
Really?
Yeah. Never raced nor rallied.
No.
Quality. Well, look, I went for, and it kind of, I think there's been a bit of a theme with what we've gone for the semi-risky option, but I have gone for 986 Boxster because I firmly believe any 986 Boxster that's kind of less than $10,000 is probably going to need $5,000 putting into it anyway at some point, particularly with chassis. They're kicking on a bit now, but I mean, they're great little fun cars, aren't they?
Yeah, cracking car for the money.
Great little fun guys. Actually, I've got a fairly funny story. So chatting to somebody who works in the industry, I won't name them, but one of their customers, it was a brilliant story. One of their customers, it's a daily used vehicle, and it's actually used as a Hermes delivery vehicle. It's a 986 Boxster, and the reason is that the lady said, well, it's got 2 boots, so I can fit more things in it. So if you're getting a very speedy Hermes delivery at the moment and you're somewhere in the middle of the UK, the chances are your speedy delivery might be the result of a 986 Boxster at the moment. So
that's brilliant.
Wow, absolutely cracking. Might be having $5,000 a month spent on petrol though, rather than actually,
Shall I give you a quick run through from our Patreons?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, Ian Harris agreed with me on a Cayman. That was his suggested 987. John Wallace an M Series BMW. Didn't say which type. Boxster came out from Tyler in the US. Common thing going on here, isn't there? Brian Duffy said a Porsche 928. Ooh, that sounds like a risk.
Ooh, okay,
I wouldn't say that's mid-risk, would you? I'd say that's high risk. You reckon?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Doug said a 1999 Impreza Type RA with lock-in diffs, etc. Very specific.
Quality, to be honest. I'm liking the sound of that.
Yeah, you're down with that. Excellent. And Rob Greasley, for his mid-range, Maserati Quattroporte.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so sort of some common themes going on there. Good. Right, onto the low risk then.
What have you got, Andy?
Start. I was just going to go Golf GTI, Mark 5 Golf GTI.
It's very unoriginal.
It is, isn't it? Absolutely. Or MX5, but no, I'm going to stick with the Golf GTI.
I would love to see you in an MX5. I really would. That would be just talking about getting into a Cayman. Oh, mate, yeah, shrink it by 30% and you got an MX5. Oh,
I want to see Andy in an MX5 with the hood down in that shirt.
That'd be amazing. I'll tell you what, the Mark 5 Golf is interesting because, I mean, for 10 grand, you've got a good selection of Golfs available there.
Oh, yeah, you'd be getting the best for that, wouldn't you?
So, yeah. But I mean, is the 5 the best? That's you know, why
I'd stick. I think the Mark 5's the best. I think that's just proper good car. Well built.
What are they onto at the moment? Are they Mark 8, 9, 10?
Mark 8 now.
8, I think, yeah. Gosh.
Yeah, give me a Mark 5 Golf. The best you could buy for 10k. I think you get the best. Yeah.
Yeah. What are Mark 4 R32s doing for price these days? I've not followed them for years.
No, I don't know.
I looked a few months ago randomly because I've always fancied one and never actually bought one. I can't remember how much they were. Less than I thought. I thought they would have held on. Let's have a very quick look.
And Nick, what's your mid risk?
I'm torn between two, actually, since you mentioned two. Certainly the Mazda MX-5. I think that's a cracking little car, isn't it? Tremendous and almost bulletproof, I think, you know. Or it would have been the Honda Civic Type R. Tremendous engine.
Yeah.
And again, bulletproof, I think. So, one of those two, quite easily, a Japanese car.
Excellent choice. Is a great shout. Certainly for reliability, isn't it? You know,
absolutely.
Lee, what's yours?
So what did I put? Right, yeah, okay. So I put Clio Cup. I think you can definitely get them for 10 grand. In fact, just having a browse, I was actually thinking of like the older stuff, like the 182 or something. But you for 10 grand, actually, you can get a 10-year-old like RS200. You know, the one with like the real chavvy little wing on the back and stuff. Yeah, I think they look absolutely awesome.
One of our listeners, Robert Greasley, suggested that as well. He said a Clio Raider or Trophy. I'm not up on my Clios, so I don't really know what that is. But
okay. I think is the Clio Trophy? Are they like the old Clio Trophy that I think? Did they only come in red? I might be making that. They were 182s that were in red.
Don't know.
Might have completely made that up.
Yeah.
But again, I think like any like Renault Sport Clio, I just think they're cracking fun, really, really good handling, and for like a good road car, cracking value for money. You know, cracking value for money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Very good. What are our Patreon saying?
John Wallace said a Golf GTI. So it's same as me. Tyler in the US said a late 70s Ford 4x4 pickup.
Okay, right, yeah, fair.
A little bit out of what we were thinking, I guess. Brian Duffy, a 1995. He's very specific on his on what he wants here. Is a Nissan 300 ZX twin turbo. I'd say that's not very safe at all. I can see that blowing up all over the place.
Unsafe,
Doug was a John Cooper Works Mini. and we've had Robert Greasley with his little Clio. So yeah, that was it. Oh, and there's Ian Harris. He had a really good one, I thought, actually. An S2000. Honda S2000. What do we think?
Say it again.
Honda S2000.
Definitely can't get one for 10 grand. No way.
No?
No way. Nah, no way. To be honest, I looked at them, but yeah, you won't get one for 10 grand, not anymore, unfortunately, because they are
Ian.
crackers.
Yeah.
You want to hear mine?
Yeah, oh yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
Joe.
go on. Yeah, sorry.
You missed you.
I thought something a little bit different, because you said obviously it's a Sunday driver, something you're going to get out on the weekend and just the weekend.
You get a Beetle.
So I would go classic Beetle.
Would you really?
Yeah. I think it's not fast necessarily, but I reckon if you want to have some fun and you want to be in something a bit older, so you can do the classic stuff.
Aren't they risky though? Because like some of them are getting on for like half a century old and stuff, and it's Yeah,
but if you're spending 10 grand on one, you can get something that's pretty up together for that.
Really?
They're literally all. I don't think there's a part on them that's more than about £4, so you can.
It's true.
That's absolutely
actually
awesome.
a Carmen gear would be nice too, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a Carmen gear would be lovely. I think you might struggle to get one for 10k, but
Would you?
If you can find one, that'd be a great choice.
I happened to see one today on Collecting Cars auction site, a Porsche gold color, actually. I think they call it. Looks stunning, beautiful. But you're right. Yeah. Probably 10 grand would struggle.
Yeah. I think by and large, as a general rule, and obviously there are always permutations to this anyway, but as a general rule, us four and listeners seem to have gone for high risk equals big engine. The middle market seems to be a Cayman or a Boxster, which is kudos to those cars in corner in the market. And then the low risk stuff seems to be hatchback / MX5s.
Yeah.
As a general consensus, isn't it? Which is.
Shall I just play Ian Harris's little audio clip just to make sure I had that right about the S2000, because that was from memory.
Hi guys, it's Ian here from Harris Classics. Thank you very much for inviting me along to give my opinions on 3 cars under £10,000. Before I start, I just wanted to thank you all for your podcast, keeping us all sane through lockdown again. When I'm out driving, it's a great thing to listen to. But car number 1, which is under £10,000, whether you need to take a serious brave pill to invest in one, is a Bentley Turbo R. You can pick those up early 1993, 1994 for about £10,000, but the maintenance bills are eye-watering. Car number 2, which is, I think, the best kind of sports car you could get really for £10,000, would be a Cayman 987, Cayman S 987 with the manual gearbox. Superb car, amazing chassis, but knocking on a little bit now in age and mileage. Number 3 would be a 2-seater sports car. So you've kind of got everything here. You've got the 2-seater coupe, the family luxury car, and then the convertible would be a Honda S2000. Obviously that engine revs to 9,000 RPM, bomb-proof, and for around the 10k mark, I found one with 42,000 miles on the clock. So they're my kind of recommendations. Bit of everything there, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ian. So 42,000 mile S2000.
I reckon Ian is very good at haggling. Very good at haggling. But they are cracking choices, has to be said. Cracking choices. A lot of time for that.
Cool.
To be fair, there's a £10,000 S2000 on eBay at the moment.
Very good. Ideal. Well, look, that was good fun. That was very good fun. Nick, tell us a little bit about your Petrolicious link.
Yeah, sure. I came across we've known about Petrolicious, all of us, for as long as they've been on. I happened to meet the owner a couple of years ago on a rally. We spent 4 or 5 days together. They're California based, of course. Started talking to him. They were wanting to develop, have a bigger presence in Europe and UK. I offered my services, and we kind of started talking about me starting to represent them on a sort of informal basis initially, and then really a man on the ground here for them for whatever needed looking at. So one of the things they wanted to do was to have more physical events because, very much online presence, obviously. But one of the other strategies over time would have been less, physically do stuff. So I had the Drivers Rally 2018 at Bicester. That was a real roaring success.
I went to that. It was good. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
It took a lot of time to curate the cars, be a bit more selective about them. That went really well. So I wanted to repeat that last year. So I did a lot of legwork around that, and unfortunately, we know none of that happened. We had some cracking venues other than Bicester because we wanted to go somewhere else, and also looking at some continental events. So the whole thing was just starting to, snowball from my point of view, which is fantastic. I mean, to be involved with Petrolicious, just lucky to have fallen across it in that sense. Unfortunately, events took a different turn last year where the owner had to sell out under a bit of cloud. And that just snowballed, and it was a feeding frenzy online. Social media just tore him apart. And within weeks, he had to apologize, but also ended up saying, I've had enough, and made a rash decision, in my view, to sell up, which he's done, since then. New owners I'm talking to see if I can resurrect my own relationship, but it's not gone anywhere, only because they're still new, trying to make sense of the business again. But what a brand, what a story when it started. There's nothing like it in the marketplace. You had lots of YouTube, videos and stuff going on, but they brought, because his wife was an ex-Disney, quite a senior Disney creative director. Okay. So you can see the sort of movie quality stuff in their videos. And that's what established them, and to this day that continues. I don't think there is anybody else who can touch them actually in that sense, because now they attract the best talent around the world who want to shoot for Petrolicious. So I guess watch this space in that sense. But, it allowed me to enter places which you couldn't enter. The calling card is tremendous, So it's not. I can't talk much about it beyond that, because at the moment it's on hold. From my point of view.
Tell us a little about the rally you did, and what did you take, and what was there, and what was that like to run around one of their events?
Yeah, I mean that. So what they do when they invite their members, to say, look, we're doing a rally. Happen to be in Tuscany, book online. Tell us what you want to bring. Curated only 20 places. Yeah, so quite tight numbers. Yeah, and then they kind of curate the cars that you offer up, saying I've got one of these. I've got one. Can I bring this? And they kind of want a mix. A mix. Interesting bag of cars from we had this Dutch guy, I forget his name now, quite famous actually, he's written books and what have you on Ferraris, and he brought along the original Ferrari Testarossa, not the one we know, but there was an older Testarossa, worth probably £20 million now, maybe more.
Jeez.
And he drives it everywhere. No problems with it. He's got full of, paint chips and all the rest of it. And it's a driver's car. He drives it. He's not one of those who puts it away. And he's had it almost from new. He said he couldn't afford to buy it now. Yeah. But, from that point of view. So, it's quite an eclectic mix of people, therefore, as well as the cars. And then, of course, the other aspect of Petrolicious, apart from, great roads, great hotels, great food, which, anyone can organize, is their ability then to be stopping at 2 or 3 interesting places for us to get into, like private collections, which people do not want to show them to anyone. Yeah. But would allow us, and we went to a private collection near Turin, Lancia rally cars of their time. And he opened up his big garage, and honestly, there must have been 20 or 25 of these rally cars of all shapes and sizes, and a massive racing boat, Lancia livery on it and what have you. Yeah. I mean, just tremendous on a vineyard, by the way. So we had a great lunch there. we had no idea we were going to walk into this. They hadn't told us. Yeah, and then just halfway through dessert, they just opened up these big barn doors where we were sitting outside of, and we were gobsmacked. So, you know, that's
Brilliant.
what Petrolicious, I suppose, can bring.
Yeah.
So that's what makes them unique. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to repeat them as yet, but with the post-COVID world, hopefully we can.
Yeah.
So you organised the Mr. Heritage event then?
I was involved in it. I didn't organise all of it. I was just coming into it as I joined them. So I took part in some of it in the sort of background, if you like. It takes a lot of organising. It's the cars, isn't it? It's the curating the cars. It's coaxing people to let them out of their collections. Yeah.
There was a great idea with, they had a couple of photographers that were doing sort of photo sets, and I booked one and had mine done. Loads of photos taken. It was absolutely brilliant, you know, to get that location and get somebody that was a professional photographer.
Really, and they've got now, Petrolicious has got its own brand style, haven't they? The style of filming is just tremendous. It's still unique. If you watch any of the videos, there's just the way they start off, and the music and all the rest of it still remains, you know, quite unique, quite frankly.
I think we've said previously on the pod that that's the mark of an industry-leading photographer, is when you look at a picture and you know who's taken it. And it's the same with Petrolicious, and a mark of their success is you watch 30 seconds or 10 seconds of one of their videos, and just the level of cinematography and the way everything is so beautifully presented, you know it's a Petrolicious movie.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. Well, yeah, keep us posted on that then, if you don't mind. Keep us informed. I hope you get back involved with that. And let us know if there's three places going for the next trip to Tuscany or whatever. So
wherever, yeah. Of course. Why not?
We'll all come along in Joe's beach buggy.
I think that'll be the most interesting car of the lot, probably.
Excellent.
Yeah, sure.
Guys, I don't know if you want to touch on the 4x4 thing tonight.
I reckon we could do a quick 10-minute 4x4 slot if you want.
Can I just touch on something, Lee? I didn't tell you my own 4x4 background. I think I mentioned Daihatsu to you, which was part of my early jobs.
Okay, go on.
Really?
Daihatsu, of course, you know, quite a niche producer, but did some tremendous four-wheel drives. You know, and so I was one of the very first who was involved in going around the country setting up these off-road courses. I'm talking about mid-'80s now, guys, right? Nowadays, you've got off-road courses everywhere, right?
Yeah.
The only other place was Land Rover had their own, but it was in one location and private, yeah? So for us to get the cars, you know, show off how good they were off-road, akin to a, you know, Series 1 Land Rover capability, if you like, with the Daihatsu 4-track, I drove around the country persuading local farmers or quarry owners to give up their land for a day or two. Local dealers would bring their four-wheel drives and we'd just show them off.
Awesome.
So, you know, I've been a four-wheel drive fan right from the beginning, before the days of the SUVs and all the rest of it. And then the Mitsubishi Shogun came out. I don't know if you remember that vehicle. So parallel to the Range Rover, that was the only nearest vehicle which was like half comfortable, shall we say? Yeah. And then the Land Cruisers and of course all the rest of it. So yeah, tremendous affinity to four-wheel drive. Always had one as my second or first car even. So I've got a lot of time for four-wheel drives.
I remember you saying as well earlier on in the conversation about the BMW and your affinity with it as a good Arthur Daly. And I mean, Joe, again, you're quite happy to sing the praises of SUVs, aren't you, in 4x4s, because you've had a few.
They've got their place, haven't they? I think if you've got the need for that sort of thing, then they do the job well. And I think that's the thing. I was thinking slightly more alternative maybe as well, because I mean I've still got a hankering for one of those the new Suzuki Jimny. I really fancy one. I think there's something about those that looks like great fun and really good looking little truck. Looks like a little mini sort of Tonka toy to me.
Absolutely, a bit bouncy to ride, but pretty good otherwise.
Well, we had a driving one, Joe, didn't we? That was last year, and we couldn't believe it when they it was at Millbrook, and we had a kind of 20-minute mess around in it, and it was fantastic. We just thought it looked like a baby G-Wagon. Whoop the badge off, no one would know, sort of thing. And when they kind of handed us the spec sheet afterwards, I mean, we were gobsmacked at the price. We thought they were giving them away, and evidently they'd proved so popular because when we spoke to the PR rep at the time, and asked
the
about
waiting list.
Oh, it was 18 months at the time, and they said it's growing. And but yeah, what a fantastic little car. But yeah, probably a little bit more kind of eclectic, isn't it, for the traditional 4x4 as we know it? You know.
Yeah, I think quite a capable kit.
Without a doubt.
For a long time, they were assembled in Spain. You know.
Didn't know.
And they were originally known as the Santana model.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, you know, they had quite a history. Yeah, absolutely.
Going back, 10 years or more, probably more than that actually. Me and a friend had a Santana, which and it had a roll cage, but the roll cage was on the outside, not the inside of the car. And this thing was sort of jacked up on suspension, and we used to take it a bit of green laning sort of around the Salisbury way. And I remember half a dozen times we sort of rolled this thing on its roof. And it was just kind of, you just drove it. And if you drove up a bank that was too big, it just tipped over, and we'd get out and push it back over again, and off we go again. And that's how we drove it. And it went through, like meters of water to the point where you get it stuck and it would literally be flooded completely. And you just drag it out, open the doors, the mud would pour out, and you just go again. And it was amazing because it never stopped. It just, there was a few sort of, early Land Rover, Range Rover type things that were, pretending they were the best 4x4, and they kept getting stuck, and we'd sort of, bumble past them this little Santana SJ Jeep thing, and it was great.
It's all about the weight.
I think the other cool ones are the Toyota FJ40s. I think they're tremendous. Tremendous.
Yeah. Well, they look really cool as well, don't they? Well, what's the new American 4x4 thing that's running around? I really like the look of it.
Bronco.
The Bronco.
Yeah,
nice.
Cracking looking thing that is. Yeah, I think if you get one of those in the UK, I think that's a really good looking thing to be running around.
I think so. Yeah, retro looking and tremendous. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I used to have a Jeep JK. The long wheelbase four-door thing. I had one of those with probably 2 or 3 inch body lift on it, big knobbly tires. It was a big old beast. I enjoyed that a lot. That was after my brush with the law. I was looking for something a bit slower, and it slowed me down. But yeah, it was good fun. I really enjoyed that. Good car.
I've still got my itch for a Hummer at some point. I just can't get away from it. I feel like I need to buy one at some point.
Really? Yeah.
What, like a proper H1?
There's a yellow.
What's the middle one? The H2, I think. That's
H2.
the one.
There's a yellow one. There's a yellow one if you're interested offline. We can talk about.
Oh gosh, no! Don't find that bloody thing.
Buy it now, Joe.
I reckon it'd be great fun. You probably actually only want to own one for about a week, and then you get fed up with it. But I reckon it'd be great fun.
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's on the list, but you don't really want to own it long term.
I think it's a bit like a boat. You have 2 good days with boat ownership: the day you buy it and the day you sell it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I could. Yeah, they're sturdy old cars, the Hummers, Joe. I think that'll do well to protect your ego in there, wouldn't it? So,
at least I can fit mine in it.
Excellent.
Would you ever buy a 4x4 anything, Lee, or is it just not your bag?
To be honest with you, the only time a 4x4 has ever remotely tickled my fancy was that Suzuki Jimny, the 2020. Like I say, that had such kind of a profound effect on me to think, actually, this would be a really good, just like daily hack for my wife and I. But yeah, we just couldn't get hold of one for a year. And then, like most things, it just, the idea comes and goes in the wind, doesn't it? But cool thing. What I like about it is the size. It's still got the 4x4 capability, but also it's not the proverbial kind of Chelsea tractor, No. And I quite like that.
What do we think to the Cayenne then?
So you like the really early ones, don't you?
Yeah, I'd love an early Cayenne. Jacked up, knobbly tyres, full Dakar rally spec. I think they look epic. But when they first come out, I thought they were the ugliest thing on earth. And what the F were Porsche thinking of creating some monstrosity like that? But now I look back on it and I think it's absolute design genius. Anybody agree?
Might be on your own there, I think.
Oh, I'm on my own. Oh,
Silence.
Yeah. Yeah, there are fleeting moments where I think I look at it and think, like you say, maybe history might be kind to them, but then it, as I say, it comes and goes pretty quickly. I think they're at that stage, particularly at the moment, where they just look really old. They don't look classic, like a classic Ranger or something. We go, actually, 90s Essex boys. That looked cool. They're not quite there for me.
It's going to be like the 996, isn't it? They're shit for years, and then everybody wakes up to it.
And then they come out the other side. Yeah, possibly. The only thing I'd say to it is, which SUVs always have, they're not an enthusiast's car. To some people they are, but that audience or pool of people is quite small. So
I think the classic Cayenne club is quite niche.
I've got a little email from one of our listeners, actually, Peter Harding, and he's an absolute Cayenne lover and has had quite a few. I'll post up his little story on Instagram and some pictures of various Cayennes that he's had over the years.
Awesome.
Wow. Yeah. To be fair, I've spent so little time in a Cayenne. I feel like at some point, as a little group, we should probably go and drive a few Cayennes.
Yeah,
and see if we're missing a trick somewhere.
Yeah, I've been in the Macan.
The next generation after that first original is that much better, and I think that may have its heyday as they get older. Perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Nick. Carl Mayo's been on this pod a couple of times. He once quite famously said that sometimes with new models outside of the 911, or it's away from sports cars, it takes one generation to get things right, or i.e. the second generation car is tends to be perfected. Panamera is a great case in point, as is the Cayenne, I think. I had a Cayenne GTS, a new one, last year while Porsche Bournemouth fit in my classic communication management. What an absolutely cracking car that was as an all-rounder. Comfortable, fast. They still use the Tiptronic gearbox, by the way. They're not PDK yet, but it was just a really, really nice place to be. Big fan, real big fan.
Yeah, I would consider one of those to replace my X5, actually, in that sense, the oldest style. With a V8, a turbo or a S or something.
And it get really, really smooth delivery and whatnot. Obviously it's nothing on a Jimny, but
no, obviously. Yeah, one of those in the back.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just going back to the early Cayenne, I believe they've got the best 4-wheel drive system. So the next generation on. They kind of simplified the 4-wheel drive, and it's nowhere near as good. So if you want a real proper mud plugger, then go for a very early Cayenne. They're meant to be amazing.
Before they went Chelsea tractor.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, probably.
There was the crazy Belgian collector who won't name had is it the Trans-Siberian Cayenne, Lee? Do you remember? It's got like snorkels, and they did some crazy.
That was a special edition in America, wasn't it?
It was something like that.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of it. I'll dig it out somewhere. But that was a crazy beast. Who was it that had been going around the fields in one? Was it one of the photographers or?
I can't remember.
Journalist?
To be honest, I can't remember. No, I know that the museum has got one. The Trans-Siberian Cayenne.
Yeah.
I don't actually know the story behind it.
There was someone we spoke to on the pod, and they gave us the story of I can't remember who it was.
Wasn't it Magnus Walker travelled through Australia with a load of Cayennes or something?
Oh, I think it was a journalist who ended up being in one with someone from Porsche who put it through its paces at some great rate. But yeah, we'll have to. I'll find the details. But yeah, that thing was quite. I think that was early, and been around the world. On a completely different tack, what does everyone think of the new Defender? Because I'm quite a fan of that.
I quite like that myself, actually. The short wheelbase, the 90. I think it's a much balanced looking car, isn't it?
I think that's a good looking car.
Yeah.
I've heard great things of what it can actually do as far as 4-wheel driving. Not only is it a good Chelsea tractor, but it's pretty amazing off-road. Really accomplished.
Okay. Keep an eye on those then, I think.
Yeah, but apparently it's exceptionally good on the road. You'd expect it to. You'd expect it to be good off-road, but on the road it's exceptionally good as well. So
Yeah, because if you've ever driven the first generation, they're interesting to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agricultural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, what an eclectic mix of topics we've covered on Road to Redline tonight. It's been cracking to chew the fat with the gang and obviously Nick joining us today. So we really appreciate that. We do want to round off, as we always do with guests on Road to Redline, with our 10 Porsche questions. We'll find that. I'm hoping maybe Andy's onto the
I've got it. I'm just finding it. If we're ready. You ready, Nick?
I am ready as I'll ever be, sure.
Okay, question
Let's
1.
go.
So quick fire, air or water?
Water, but moving towards air.
Okay. Favorite Porsche model?
Probably the 993.
Favorite Porsche color?
Ruby. Is it Ruby Stone Red or Ruby Red?
Yeah.
I always forget.
Ruby Stone's the original.
Ruby Stone Red. Yeah.
Nice.
Who is your ultimate Porsche icon?
I think it's got to be Mexler. Is it? How do you pronounce it?
Hans Metzger.
Metzger. Sorry. Got to be.
Excellent.
For
Excellent.
me. Yeah.
Your favorite track?
Oh, Brands Hatch. Partially because I've driven around Brands Hatch many occasions, not racing, but on track days.
Yeah.
The very first one I drove at is a very intimate track. So yeah, Brands Hatch, definitely.
Great spectator track,
yeah,
isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you Tafuk or not Tafuk? That is the question.
Tafuk.
Stock or hot rod?
Stock.
Narrow or wide body?
Wide body.
Cars and coffee or a track day?
Oh, right now, cars and coffee.
And lastly,
we've been missing them, right? So,
yeah, definitely. And lastly, do you do back seats in a 911?
I don't mind either way, to be honest. They're not used anyway, so yeah. If my car that I buy happens not to have them, I won't be bothered.
Excellent. Yeah.
I'm surprised at your stock answer there, being with somebody with plans to backdate and targa 993. I was expecting.
Well, yes, I think that's a good point to pick me up on. However, to me, Rod, sorry, you said stock or not retro, was it? It's
stock or hot rod. So yeah,
hot rod. Yeah. So I'm thinking stock or retro. I'm thinking more retro rather than hot rod. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I went stock specifically.
Yeah, no, I'll take that.
Are you able to talk about that on air just quickly, Nick, as regards to your plans, or do you want to keep that kind of under wraps? What you're thinking?
No, I'm happy to. In fact, I've got one in train now, which is an Alfa Spider, which I mentioned, which actually I can't decide exactly where to stop, but it's just what they call a Series 4 Spider, which was the last of the Spiders, with the plastic bumpers. Yeah, shall we say?
Okay.
Versus the very original Dustin Hoffman, round tail, as they call it, original mid-60s car. But mechanically, of course, the later one, early 90s, got fuel injection and, power steering. So I'm looking to backdate that as far back as I can take it, if you like. Cool. So I'm kind of debating that at the moment. That's halfway through. I just can't decide how far back to go. But certainly the other one is to backdate a Targa to the original look, if you like, but based on something a little bit more modern to drive. So a 993 or a 964, I'm being told, is the way to go with that. As far as the mechanicals are concerned, I haven't decided whether to upgrade or not. So watch this space, I guess.
I think that's such a cracking idea. And again, it kind of, we were talking about it before Andy pressed the recording button, but Joe pointed out the 964 might be easier to do in terms of like the back date, but I think the idea of a 993 would be pretty cool, considering I just don't really know anyone that's done it. As an original roll bar style Targa,
I'm sure I've
take
seen
a
one.
cabriolet.
I'm sure I've seen one. I'll try and dig that out, see if I can find some pictures for you.
Be interesting to see. I say I've certainly never come across it, so it's a cool idea. What's been the idea behind that then, Nick?
Well, as I've got more into Porsche and the history and the 911 particularly, I've sort of looked at all of those, in detail, and the Targa of that early generation just catches the eye, aesthetically, let alone mechanically. It doesn't matter what you put underneath, right? So, from that's what caught my eye. It's just ultimately the aesthetics. A good-looking one can look tremendous, with the roll bar. A brushed aluminium one just looks fantastic, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, so much so we know they brought it back, didn't they, in the latest generation, right?
Yeah.
So it's, yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Definitely keen to see.
I've got one more.
Progresses.
Yeah, if you've got time, I'd like to talk about one more subject. You can
Indeed
edit it out if you want. So one of my other thoughts, money allowing, of course. So of course, if I win the lottery, I'll do it for sure. But if not, I'd like to collect one of each generation of the 911s. Yeah. So I think we'll be on 8 or 9 now, would we? If we take one, I think it's 9.
It's,
with a
it's 8.
Yeah.
If you want to, if you want to include the 930 Turbo, which is kind of addition to the G series, then you're on to 9. But it's
okay. All right, 8 or 9, yeah, whatever. It's really if you guys had that luxury of having one of each, I'd like to create kind of a theme, if you like, so you could go almost turbo, but you can't go turbo because they weren't available in the early models, if you like. But you get my drift. So, or is it Targa? Maybe that's a theme. Or GT isn't quite a theme, is it? Because the GT2s and 3s didn't come in until later. So would there be a theme that you guys would go with across?
I know exactly what theme I'd go with, and that'd be loud, leery colours.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I think I would just go and find all the sort of hen's teeth colours that are out there that are all a bit different and a bit crazy, and I just think you could have this. This crazy eclectic mix of stuff that just as a collection look barking mad. It's only when you kind of really line it up together that you kind of get the theme. But that's what I do, I think. Well,
I like that actually. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you. I thought of same color, but not eclectic.
I think there's a couple of angles of attack here, Nick, that you could go for. The RS is perhaps the obvious one. It's a great opportunity to drop a shameless plug from our YouTube video with the first and the latest RSs. It's a great highlight because the cars that the 2.7 RS next to the latest GT3 RS, those cars are so different. But their thesis is the same, and their approach to kind of really eking out those small crucial tenths of second that add up to the bigger picture. That would be a pretty fascinating journey. I think Turbo is equally as interesting because to me the best Turbo is the original, the archetypal Turbo, the 3 litre. I think it's such a fun car. The fact it's so agricultural, and how that car over the years, whilst it's always sat at the top of the 911 tree, Rennsport aside, as the most kind of luxurious and indomitable super sports car, it still does that today, albeit it's a far more technologically laden car. I tell you, if you wanted to be a little bit off piste, if you like, Carrera would actually be really interesting because although these days the Carrera sits at the bottom of the tree, it started at the top, so you could still get your 2.7 Carrera RS in there. It then went to the 2.7 Carrera a year later of 74, which was an RS engine. It's the secret RS. It's an RS and everything but name. You've then got the Carrera 3 at the late 70s, which most people have never heard of. They only made it for 1 or 2 model years. Like I say, then it was you've got RSs, 964, 993 Carrera RSs, and then now, I mean, a Bogo Carrera, as we know and we've spoke about on this pod in 992 form, is arguably the pick of the current range. So it's a pretty fascinating way to see how that Carrera name has kind of bobbed and weaved through the 911 model in the years, but it is still so important to the lineup,
that make an interesting choice actually. Interesting theme, I should say. Fantastic. Okay,
food for thought, Nick, that's for sure.
It is.
I like that.
I'll tap you guys again on that. Thank you.
Ideal. Well, look, Nick, it's been a pleasure sharing some fantasy garage ideas with you this evening. So thank you for joining us and sharing us your ideas on that, and also for your past, with Alfa Romeo and obviously your work with Petrolistas as well. It's a pleasure to hear that.
And thank you for your support.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for your Patreon support because you've been with us pretty much from the start. So really appreciate that. Thank you.
I have. It's my pleasure. It's just lovely to support you guys, quite frankly. So just look forward to your podcast every week. Thank you very much for inviting me, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Nice one, gents. That is what a good week. Happy days. You've been listening to Road to Redline, the #1 Porsche and Car podcast, fueled by our generous Patreons. If you'd like to join in supporting the podcast, please see patreon.com/Road to Redline and find us on Instagram.
Guys, hi, it's Paul here. I'm sorry, I have just realised completely missed the deadline, but anyway, I thought I'd give you my 2 penny worth. 10 grand, major risk car, absolute nightmare, dump it if it goes wrong. And I've checked online, a Triumph Stag V8, as we know, with cooling issues. Then moving on to semi-risky, but there may be a 5 grand bill, would be an early Boxster, preferably the 24 valve S 3.2, because you may buy it, but you may have 5K's worth of bills, and £10,000, probably only a few £100s to fix, would be a Golf GTI, probably Mark 5. Possibly 6, but certainly in the middle ranks of Golf GTIs. And that's my 10 penny worth. But unfortunately, I've missed your deadline. But day job took over. Take care. Cheers. Bye.
Afternoon, gents. John from Bookham here. In answer to your request for 10k Sunday drives, high risk. Let's go for something sort of ridiculous, the huge luxurious lump, a roller or a big Bentley, big engine with lots of creature comforts. But as you say, if something goes wrong, it's off to the knacker's yard. Semi-risk, mid-risk. Again, I've not found one in particular, but some kind of M series BMW. Be fun, responsive, and worth spending that extra 5k to prolong the experience. And the low risk, having had a couple in the past, you can't go wrong with a VW Golf GTI, pretty much bulletproof. Hopefully there'll be a few strong contenders at that 10k mark across the 6, 7, 8 different series of them. Anyway, keep up the good work. You're enjoying the pod, and look forward to the next show.